Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary. So I have finished the ketamine treatment. I finished it on Wednesday. So 6 sessions over the course of a little bit less than a month. And I'm super happy with it, with how it went. In fact, I was watching last night, I rewatched my video after my first treatment, and I was really struck by just how different my demeanor was. Like, I mean, it's really visible, like how much better the depression is, in just 3 weeks or whatever it's been. And that's the only change, is the ketamine treatment. So it's really made a huge difference. I would say that obviously the main symptom of depression for me and for most people who have it, or at least have been diagnosed with it, is the depressed mood, the depressed and anxious mood, which is, for me, 100% cured right now. I know I said that last time, and I meant it last time too, but 100% cured on that front. The residual symptoms are all either cured or much better. The one exception, and I mentioned something in the first video that I forgot about in the second video, was caffeine sensitivity. I'm still sensitive to caffeine, but it no longer gives me any type of depressed reaction, like, or anything like that. I could, I'm no more or less depressed whether I consume caffeine or not. But I am still sensitive to it. Because again, I'm on meds that make the sensitivity worse, and I'm naturally sensitive ever. But it's not like sensitive in a way that, like, I can't consume it if I don't want, if I want to. I consume plenty of chocolate, has no effects on my mood whatsoever anymore. I mean, maybe occasionally I'll feel a tiny bit of anxiety, but that's pretty much it. And who knows how much that's even related to the caffeine or chocolate. So, like I said, everything is either cured completely or much improved. With 2 exceptions. One is the sleep. The sleep isn't still bad. It still sucks, and it might even be a little bit worse than it had been. I mean, the sleep quality is better. I can tell because, like, I'm not waking up with my sheets all over the place anymore. So the sleep quality is better, but the sleep duration is definitely appears to be less. So you could say in some ways it's improved it, in some ways it hasn't. But in either case, sleep remains a problem. And then related to that, or I think related to that, I still can't get off the meds, which are, causing some of the other problems that I'm having. I did try last week to get off. This time I was doing it. I've tried to get off Effexor before, but this time I was on Effexor and Wellbutrin, and I tried to get off them both simultaneously, which maybe wasn't like the greatest idea, but I don't think it would have made a difference. It was very tough withdrawal, like physical painfully withdrawal. The depression, though, was, while not great, was pretty much under control until like the 140-hour mark, I would say. So I guess that's sometime right about when you're about to hit day 6. That's when it got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore, and I just started to, and I had to go back on the meds, because it wasn't just withdrawal symptoms anymore. In fact, it was pretty much right after the withdrawal symptoms had finally finished, and it was return of the original depression, and it was too painful, and I had to go back to taking the meds. After I did that, I recovered pretty rapidly. Part of that is probably because my depression's not as bad because of the ketamine. Part of it is probably because this time, instead of just taking the Effexor, I was taking the Effexor and the Wellbutrin together. So while it made withdrawing harder, it made getting back on easier in terms of like recovery time. I would say that, I had taken, when I took, I felt horrible in terms of like depressed and anxious mood, and I took the Wellbutrin and Effexor, and then I think it was like 5 hours later, I don't know, 5 hours or 6 hours later, I had to go in to get my final ketamine treatment. By the time that I went to get that final treatment, I was like 90% of the way back in just 5 or 6 hours. By the end of that day, I started to feel like I felt pretty much what I thought was close to 100. I was probably 95% of like pushing the end of the day. And then when we got to the very end of the day, when it started to be the 24-hour mark for when I'd last take my meds, that's when I started to feel some symptoms, some symptoms again. But it went away quickly after taking my second dose of the meds. Like, so took 6 days off, took one dose, started to feel better, then started to feel a little worse, took my second dose, and then by the end of that day, I felt complete 100% recovered. Back to where I was. So feel really good, mentally and physically, mentally, emotionally, physically, for the most part, other than the fact that I am kind of tired because I'm just not sleeping very well. But I've had enough energy to do some working out. Like, I mean, not really going on a lot of walks and stuff. I do a little bit of that, and I don't really have a ton of energy for that. But go on some walks. Do more resistance training stuff. So I have at least the energy to do that stuff. Nothing crazy, nothing hardcore, but at least a little bit. And so yeah, and a lot of better. And in fact, in a lot of ways, I feel the better physically than I ever have at any other time in my life. Because some of these things, like the like sort of extreme tightness and stuff, I've always had that. And then this ketamine thing seems to have gotten rid of it. So the thing is, I don't know that this is going to last. I know that frequently people do need boosters, and it's easier said than done because each booster is another $1,000. So, like, where am I supposed to get that kind of money? And so, I mean, I would hope that I can hold out for like at least another month before I have to do the first booster, and then just with time, I'll need them less and less often. We'll see. I do have one last idea of how to try to get off the meds, because I really do want to get off of them for a couple of reasons. I mean, a few reasons. One is, like, especially this last time going through the detox symptoms, it makes, like, when the detox is that bad, you start to wonder, like, what is in this shit? Like, what, like, like this detox should not be that painful. Like, what am I ingesting every day? So that's the first part. The second part, this isn't huge, but it's the money. Like, the thing is, like, yes, the insurance pays for it, but I mean, it's every fucking month. That's like an extra. It's at least an extra $35 a month for now between the two prescriptions, and that's only after you hit the deductible. So in the early months, it's even higher, and that adds up over the course. And who knows how much higher it's going to be in the future. And the other is a fear that, what if something like bad happens and, like, I'm not able to get access to these meds for an extended period of time, maybe permanently. Like, there's no way. I mean, it's like, it's so painful for me not to have it that I don't want to say that I'd commit suicide or anything, because I think in that state I wouldn't be capable of it. I'd be too anxious to go forward with it, but it would just be 24/7 torture. So I really do want to get off the meds if possible. So I'm not surprised that ketamine wasn't able to do that, because ketamine doesn't really have anything to do with serotonin, and my inability to get off or dopamine for that matter, my inability to get off the meds seems to be related to my body, I guess, not producing enough serotonin or dopamine, or just not absorbing it well. I don't know. One of those two seems to be the most likely. And so when it comes to, like, those things, serotonin and dopamine, what would have more promise would be something like psilocybin, the magic mushrooms type things. I have figured out a way to get access to them. It might be a while before I do, though. But if I, can get them and then try microdosing low doses of them, that might be enough to get off the antidepressants. And and I'm certainly not recommending you do it, especially if you're on SSRIs, because it supposedly can, like I am, because it can supposedly cause serotonin syndrome. I have read enough information to convince me that it is still safe. For me, that's just my opinion, my non-medical opinion, that for me, it's still going to be safe to use it, in low doses. It might not get as much. I might not get as much of a psychedelic effect, but I think it would still give me the same therapeutic effects insofar as I get any, regardless. So for that reason, I am inclined to try that next. I don't know how soon that's going to be, but yeah, if I could get off these meds, that would be great. As for what I recommended to somebody else, again, it really depends on the situation, especially the financial situation. The one interesting thing about ketamine, and I can't remember if I spoke about this in the first video or not. I think I did. Is that, and one of the things that maybe drew it to me the most is, one thing they really like about it is that it gets rid of the depression like immediately, like within 10 minutes, as opposed to an SSRI where you're waiting like 4 to 8 weeks. Same thing with like ECT, or even the true electroshock therapy. Both of those, they take time, whereas ketamine works immediately. For me, that's true. I wouldn't be surprised if that's true for most people. However, I think you should understand that just because it works immediately doesn't mean it's permanent. Because for me, I went into the first session pretty depressed. The depression, like I was exhausted and in a depressed mood. And then the ketamine, I would say, yeah, within 10 minutes, maybe even less, that depression was gone. The ketamine had completely cured it. And it stayed that way for the rest of the session. The first session, I think, was 45 minutes. Usually it's 40 minutes. But when that session was done, the depression was back within 5 minutes. Like almost back to as bad as where it was, and maybe all the way back. Like that's how fast it crashed. Now, later on in that day, I started to improve again. But and it would improve further into the next day. And then really started to improve after the second session. But no, so like, I think that for my guess is that for most people, it will cure the depression at first, but that effect is going to be gone for a lot of people immediately when the treatment discontinues. Now, maybe over the course of 6 weeks, it'll help, because that's like what happened to me. But I don't think just because it fixes you at first doesn't mean the fix is going to be permanent. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know if even let's say even with me staying on the meds, I don't know how permanent this is now. I have had plenty of false dawns before, times where I thought I was cured and I wasn't. If this is a false dawn, this is the best I've ever felt on a false dawn. So because right now I feel really good. I guess physically and mentally, other than the not sleeping thing. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I could go back for a booster in as soon as 2 weeks, but hopefully I end up needing few, if any, boosters. I just don't know what the situation there is going to be like. I probably would do. I just kind of feel like I should do at least one, even though it is a ton of money. But I don't know if after that, maybe I don't need to keep doing them. Or maybe only need to do it once a year or some shit. Because I know that's how some people do it even less than that. They do it once every 2 years, once every 3 years. So yeah, and then like I said, I do want to try the mushrooms. I don't know if that's going to happen in 23. Hopefully sometime in 24, if everything doesn't go to shit, with the whole Middle East conflict and stuff by then. So yeah, was there anything else I wanted to say about it? Oh yeah, and I just for recommendations, right? The pricing, would I recommend it? If you can afford it, and if the doctor says it's safe for you, yes, I would recommend you try it. Even if you don't think you have depression, because I realized from ketamine that I had more I knew I had depression, and I knew I had a depressed mood, but I was more depressed than I even realized. And you may be more depressed than you realize. So yeah, absolutely. If you can afford it, and if it's safe, and you don't feel really good right now, you don't feel good or whatever, I would say yes, give it a try. If it's something you have interest in as well. So if you're interested, If you think it, if you they say it'll be safe for you, you think it'll be safe for you, and you can afford it, yes, give it a shot. Um, but that's a lot of ifs. And, like I said, in anything, you got to do your own research, be your own advocate, make your own decisions. It's tough, and I'm certainly not qualified to give anybody medical advice. So it's not really advice. It's just me what I would tell to myself, I guess, to a hypothetical version of myself in the same situation. Not necessarily what I would tell to you, because I don't know you. And if I did, I wouldn't give you specific advice. But yeah, so like somebody like, I think the question a lot of people are going to have, and I think I mentioned this in the first video, like, would somebody like DBDR benefit from it? I think while he was on it, like, let's say you hooked DBDR up to one of these machines and gave him like a session, I would say 5 to 10 minutes in, all the stuff that's bothering him, he would see like that it's no big deal, that like how trivial it is, and he wouldn't care about it. However, I would expect that effect to wear off pretty quickly, like almost immediately once it's done. So, like, I'm not sure, like, if I would necessarily recommend it for him, because I just don't know if, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just, it's like, I unfortunately, I don't think there's a way to tell, like, to tell, like, what effect it's going to have. And then for somebody like DBDR, who, like a lot of people, you don't really know how much is like, is this guy depressed, and how much is this guy just sad? They're not, because sad is an emotional thing, depression is a chemical thing. So like so without knowing that, like, obviously this treatment, I guess theoretically it could help with the emotional part too, because I know it's used for even for like for parents who've lost children, which has got to be like, I can't even imagine. I mean, I don't have kids, so I know I really can't imagine how painful it must be, that they've used, and it's really helped them. So yeah, I think it could help for the emotional stuff too. But for me, it was more of a chemical thing. I definitely would be interested. I don't know. I think it's just, like I said, it's too bad that, like I said in the first video, this should be the frontline treatment for depression. Before they put anybody on SSRIs, they should do this. And then, although that's kind of problematic too, because apparently this treatment actually works better if you're on SSRIs. And so they say. So it's different than the psilocybin, which they don't want you to be on SSRIs for, generally speaking. So yeah, tough to say. It's tough to say on that front. Basically, this video is just information. It's not advice. And then, yeah, I mean, I really wish I could describe to you guys what the experience is like, but I can't, other than, just depersonalization, derealization. It does feel kind of floaty, but not in like the physical sense that you might expect. I mean, maybe for some people. And, no, it's really weird because, like I said, everything like technically appears just as solid, but at the same time, it doesn't seem real. And I know that this sometimes happens even like to people who meditate, who are like very strong responders to meditation. They'll experience stuff like this, like with this state, and I could see like things just don't seem real, but they still look the same. It's really weird. It looks the same, but it doesn't seem real. It's bizarre. It's bizarre, and you just kind of have to see it for yourself. But yeah, anyway, went on a little longer than I meant to. Sorry about that. That's all for now. See you in the next.